Hola, estudiantes. It's Mrs. Santiago here. And today we are going to take the notes on the culture of Texas. We are going to complete Texas culture in pictures. So I am in your OneNote, chapter 3, page 2, Texas culture in pictures. I'm going to eliminate the table of contents and I'm going to make the pictures and the notes large. Okay, let me make sure I'm in a good color. There we go. Okay, so I wanted to start the first page off with just the map and a whole bunch of places that are important in Texas. So if you look at the map in the center, you can see Texas has like a top hat kind of sitting on a head of hair type of shape. So why do I say that? So if I think of Texas, I always think like this is the top hat, right? And here is the head of hair, and this could be the person's eyes and mouth. Okay, maybe I'm stretching it, but that's what I think of when I think of Texas. So I will erase my great picture so you can see the map. Okay. Let's talk right away. Let's go for known for international business and the JFK assassination. What place is that? Okay, that will be Dallas. So Dallas was the home to both of those things. And Fort Worth, I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to make it big. Okay, Fort Worth is known for its stockyards. So, stockyards, I'm going to write the word stockyards. But if you're not sure what a stockyard is, to this day, they bring the cattle and other animals, farm animals, livestock to an auction in Fort Worth, and they actually drive them right up the street like you see here. They don't bring them in necessarily in a wagon like we would do. They walk them right through the stockyard streets. Okay, the next one. There is 113 miles of beautiful beach along the Gulf Coast of Texas. If I had to draw it on the map, oh, it's there. Let me just highlight it. Okay, so I'm going to highlight it in yellow. Do you see it right here? It's right here along the edge, and it goes from Corpus Christi down to the border of Mexico. Okay, so what is that called? That is called Isla del Padre. Isla del Padre or Padre Island, right? Isla del Padre, 113 miles of beautiful beach. Okay, going to the next corner, you can see Big Bend National Park. Well, let's talk about the name first. Big Bend. Okay, so if you look up here at the map of the Rio Grande, do you see where it bends? Okay, so let's highlight that in blue. So this is the Rio Grande all the way along the border. They might call it Rio Grande del Norte, but it is the Rio Grande River. And here, right here, let me see, I'll put pink. Right here is where it bends, right in that section. So it's called Big Bend National Park. It is one of the largest national parks in the United States. Um, it is home to natural beauty. Okay, natural beauty. They have found fossils there. And it's also, right, it's in the bend of the Rio Grande River. Okay, beautiful, right? I have to go there. It's so beautiful. Austin. Even though it's a small picture, look at that building. It looks like a building that's been in the news a lot with the changeover of our government. Right, that's the Capitol building for Austin, and it was actually made to look like the United States Capitol. So Austin is actually the capital of Texas. Right, capital city, Austin. A lot of people think it's Dallas or Fort Worth or Houston. No, it's Austin. Austin is the capital. Well, so what is Houston known for? Well, Houston is known for sea trade. Okay, it is a port city, one of the largest. It is the largest in that area. So it's a port city. What does that mean? Well, that's where all the big tankers come in and they upload and offload international trade here in Houston. Okay, and what's our last one of the cities? Okay, known for the river walk. Okay, known for its river walk, that would be San Antonio. San Antonio River Walk. San Antonio. Sorry, I almost made that wrong. San Antonio Riverwalk. Known for its Riverwalk. Okay, so we've got San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, Austin, Big Bend National Park, and Isla del Padre. Now let's move on to La Comida. Okay, so let's talk about this stuff that began with the cowboys eating while out on the range. This is the most famous style of cooking in Texas. So you could say it's BBQ. Okay, in English, though, written out as a word, right? It's barbecue. In Spanish, it is barbacoa. Okay, so that's that style of barbecuing. It's a little bit different than what we do. We're used to pulling out the gas grill. Theirs is done with actual coals and wood and delicious. Okay, Texas is also the original place for this dish in the middle, right? I love to eat this. Okay, here's me eating it with my fork. Okay, yum. So I hope you recognize that picture, right? It's chili. Texas makes one that's known as Texas red chili. So it's their specific kind made with more tomato base and a little bit more like red bean only. So Mexico has a large influence on the Texas food, including tortillas, chips, nachos, quesadillas. They're all made with beef and pork. Okay, and they call their specific kind, you might hear Tex-Mex food. So it's Texas Mexican. So definitely a big influence. And nachos were born there. Quesadillas were born in Texas. Where they would use more bean-based products in Mexico and maybe chicken. Remember, we're talking about Ranch, Texas. They use beef and pork. Okay, in Texas, the state tree produces the nuts for this famous pie. I don't know if you're familiar. It's my favorite nut. I love them very much. It's pecans. You might hear it said a bunch of different ways, like pecan, pecan. Okay, I'm gonna call it pecans, right? It's pecan pie. Okay, pecans. Famous tree and nut from Texas. Okay, and the blue. Let's talk about the blue. Interesting places, people, and facts. I have to make my pen a little bit smaller for this one. Okay, so Texas had how many different flags flying over it? Okay, this one's tricky, right? Because it was originally owned by Spain, and then for a while it was Mexican territory, and for 9 years it was its own government. For a while, the French took over right before the Cinco de Mayo situation. Then they had the republic, I mean, the 13 colonies, or it was like a maybe not the 13 colonies, but it was that first flag, and then the regular United States flag. So there are 6 flags that have flown over it. In fact, Six Flags, the amusement park, comes from Texas from that very fact. If you look here to the right, that is Texas with its flag on it. Texas's big motto, they are known as the blank blank state. I give you a hint, they only have 1 star. Okay, it is called the Lone Star State. And you're going to see this Lone Star idea because they were, again, from the history, they were their own country. And that is the same flag that they flew when they were their own country. So known as the Lone Star State. Carmen Lomas Garza, she is a famous author. Okay, she is a famous author, and she painted these pictures to show what life was like as a Mexican American in Texas. So it's called Family Pictures or In My Family, En Mi Familia. So here's one of my favorites. So this is called Tamalada. Tamalada is I'm gonna write the name of it up above it. Okay. It's called Tamalada. Tamalada is when the whole family gets together to make tamales. Okay, so this is like the extended family because tamales are a process. So you can see even the kids are helping to get the husks. So they make what's called a masa, which is a dough, and it's made from like root vegetables. Then you can see the father here is spreading it with the young boy and the grandma. They spread it onto the um, corn husk. Then you can see this might be the mom or the aunt. She's putting the meat mixture in, and then it comes over here. He's also putting in the meat mixture, and then right here, you can see they're getting rolled. Here they get rolled, and then you put them in the pot rolled, and that's how they're cooked, and here they are getting cooked. Okay, and the whole family takes part, and then you have tamales for a long, long time. The details of this picture are what's interesting, right? The extended family, the mismatched chairs, the picture of the religious scene in the background. That would absolutely be there because of them being Catholic. The garlic hanging, just the clothing. Okay, all great, great to see. Carmen Lomas Garza. Another fact. So this is Selena, not Selena Gomez. This is Selena Quintanilla Perez. She was cited to be the next Madonna in her day. And then she was killed by her manager. The lady who managed her business went a little crazy because she was accused of stealing. So she is very famous, Selena Quintanilla Perez from Texas. She was a Mexican American. And yeah, super famous. Look her up. Jennifer Lopez played her in the movie Selena. Jamie Foxx is from Texas. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is from Texas. Matthew McConaughey is from Texas. And the presidents, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, and Lyndon B. Johnson, all from Texas. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Texas. Okay, and we mentioned it a little bit with the Lone Star State. So, first of all, why are there so many influences of Mexico in Texas? We'll take a look at this. This is the map from 1842. Okay, so in 1842, you can see that this area, all the way up, this was all owned by Spain. Okay, Spain first. When they took over, remember that the Pope created that line and everything to the west of the line became Spain's. And this was part of that territory. So Spain was here first, and then Mexico, and then it became the Republic of Texas. Okay, Texas as its own country. But you can see this part is still the territory of Nuevo Mexico and Alta California, which is right, tall California. This is all still Mexico. When the Mexicans lived here and they became a separate territory, they did not kick the Mexicans out. Okay, Mexicans lived in all of this area, and you can kind of see where it's going to go over and come up. Okay, that's my guesstimate for Texas. And you can see all of this is Mexican territory. So when you have a territory and you fight for it to become free, you don't kick people out. You need people to stay there. So Texas was Mexico. Okay, so that's why we still have native people, native Mexicans that are absolutely US citizens and have lived there for centuries. It's no different than the Mayans, the Incans, or the Aztecs. This was their home and it stays their home. Okay, let's talk about the US-Mexican border because it ends up in the news quite often. This is what I'm talking about right now. The whole border, okay, but I'm going to talk up to there, and then I'm going to highlight the rest of it yellow. Okay, so the yellow part is not Texas, but all of that blue part is Texas. Important kind of fact, you can see that there are sister cities across Texas right here. At each of these border spots, okay, you can see that there's a city on each side of the river. Those are called sister cities. So that's where a lot of crossings take place. When there's a business on the other side, you travel back and forth. So the border between Mexico and the United States is 1,954 miles. The part of it that belongs to Texas is 1,254 miles between Texas and Mexico. And all of that is the Rio Grande River. Okay, the Rio Grande. Sometimes, again, it'll be called Rio Grande all the way or Rio Grande del Norte. So, yeah, Texas border very long with Mexico. All right, let's talk about what it's like to be a Mexican. So, Texas has what's called, and I'm going to put a parentheses around it, or I mean a quotation, cowboy culture. Cowboy culture is a way of life in Mexico. So you can see this very first picture is a historical photo of working cowboys taken in 1885. This was their everyday lives, right? And that's all I'm going to write here is this was the everyday life of a cowboy in that time. Okay, you can see, look at how they're dressed. You can see little details, right? They have on their belts. You can see that guy even has like a little thing that reminds me of Mexico. They have on their vests. They have leather pants on top of their boots, and you can see a little spur there. And look at these hats. They're not the cowboy hats that we're accustomed to now. These hats are much flatter, and you can see that they are compared to Mexican cowboys. So Mexican cowboys are called charros, and there are Mexican cowboys in Texas. So you can see very similar outfit, a little bit fancier here because they have the tie. Okay. Speaking of all of this, right? Texas cowboy culture, I'm going to put another quotation around it, has become part of our daily lives. If you have ever gone camping, that came from the cowboys living out with the cattle. If you've ever sat around a campfire, you probably have made s'mores around a campfire. That comes from them. And of course, right, cowboy boots. If you've worn cowboy boots, you've taken part. Or you might have worn a cowboy hat, okay, or even a sombrero. The official sport of Texas, you might say, official sport, aren't they doing like football and things like that? No, the official sport of Texas is the rodeo. Official sport of Texas, rodeo. Las Celebraciones, our last part. So Cinco de Mayo is celebrated more in the United States than it is in Mexico, and these are just a couple of pictures. You can see it's celebrated with parades, dancing, and food. So this is traditional Mexican costumes from the heritage of Mexican Americans. You can see the sombrero, but look at the cowboy horseshoe there. The big dresses remind me a little bit of flamenco, and they're dancing in the streets as part of a parade. You can see the Mexican colors of the flag, the red, the red, white, and green. And let's look next door to that. Look at the food. Okay, nachos and guacamole, and you can see these are like taquitos and flan, little sombreros, sarape underneath. Okay, so it celebrates, what are they celebrating? The courage of the Mexican people at the Battle of Pueblo. People think that Cinco de Mayo is the Independence Day of Mexico, and it is not. Cinco de Mayo really celebrates, here we go, the courage of the Mexican people. And the Battle of Pueblo was against the French people, right? It was not against other people. And even though Mexico actually lost that little war, France took over Mexico for a short time. They won the Battle of Pueblo. Okay, so Battle of Pueblo celebrates the Mexican courage at, again, what are we talking about? We're talking about Cinco de Mayo. Perfect. Okay, one other distinctly distinctly Texas celebration is when they talk about the Alamo. Remember the Alamo. There's not a picture of the Alamo here, but the Alamo, if you kind of drew it, it would look, and I'm going to make a terrible drawing, and I'm sorry, Alamo. But if you made a drawing of it, the Alamo kind of is shaped like that. And it's shaped like that because Alamo was a mission church. Okay, so you're going to see like a big door in front. And it was originally the Alamo, right, was a mission church started by the Spanish to spread the religion of the Queen. But it became a fort during the war, and it is celebrated. The heroes from that battle at the Alamo, they used to yell, "Remember the Alamo!" And this is just called fiesta, which means party. So it's a fiesta to celebrate that. Remember the Alamo, which was their battle cry. Remember the Alamo. That's their battle cry. Okay, and maybe I should do this because it's a battle cry. And the last thing, if you were in Texas, these are some of the phrases that you should absolutely expect to hear. Y'all, yeehaw, friendship, don't mess with Texas, everything's bigger in Texas, howdy, partner, I added the partner, Texas our Texas, hey y'all, they use a lot of y'all. They actually say ain't a lot, even though we consider it not a word, it's ain't. Deep in the Heart of Texas song. And then this one is the killer for me. Okay, fixin' to. Okay, when you say in English you're going to, in Texas you might say, I'm fixing to go out to eat with my parents tonight. Okay, so fixing to is that idea of going to. All right, that was 3 pages of notes on culture and pictures for Texas. Please make sure you read through it. I love doing these pages. I think it makes Texas come alive for you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Gracias.